From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you are listening to this program. I am John of the Frost, and joining me, as always, is Medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing this evening, Jenny?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. We have found ourselves on the tail end of another week, headed into another weekend. So I'm doing
going fast.
Pretty well now that summer funk is over and everything is back to, well, I guess the way things are. Mm-hmm. So I hope everyone is doing well out there tonight. Welcome in Keisha. Welcome in Norse. Welcome in Flower. Welcome in, everyone. We have a good show for you this evening, one I've been really excited for and can't wait to delve into. But I guess first,
I know I just keep coming up with more questions as we're sitting here.
Yeah. But I guess first we should get to
the weird news.
All right. All right, so we try to keep this news a little bit on the weird side, but we do have to go over some things that are just, I don't know, things we need to know about. Fulton County Blues. Today, former President Donald Trump will turn himself into Fulton County Jail, where he will be processed and released on $200,000 bail. This is to face charges that he tried to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. Mm-hmm. So that's something that's been in the news, we'll see how that goes, especially heading into the election season that we're going to have to trudge through and listen to. So
I know.
We'll
already
see how that turns out. Number two, U.S. intelligence says an intentional explosion brought down the Wagner chief Prigozhin's plane. I don't know if you had heard about this, Jenny, but a preliminary U.S. intelligence assessment concluded that an intentional explosion caused the crash. Presumed to have killed a mercenary leader who was eulogized Thursday by Vladimir Putin, even as suspicions grew that the Russian president was the architect of the assassination.
So it was a Russian fella?
Well, we had talked a little bit about this before. He was the leader of the Wagner group. He was one who led the rebellion, possibly there.
Oh, yes.
And he was
I remember us talking about that now.
Yeah, and we had the conversation about how long he would stay alive. Well, that ended yesterday as his plane was shot down.
About a month or something.
Yeah, a couple months, maybe at most. Details of the intelligence assessment surfaced as Putin expressed his condolences to the families of those who were reported to be aboard the jet and referred to serious mistakes by Prigozhin. The jet carrying the founder of the Wagner military company and 6 other passengers crashed Wednesday soon after taking off from Moscow with a crew of 3, according to Russia's Civil Aviation Authority.
Yikes.
So that's kind of the stuff going on. I thought was at least, probably in our circles of things to talk about. 3 is the one we were talking about last night. India makes an historic uncrewed landing on the moon's South Pole. Yeah, congratulations to that team. India made history Wednesday by becoming the first country to reach the lunar South Pole. An uncrewed robotic moon lander operated by India's space agency and known as the Chandrayaan-3 touched down on the moon's South Polar region shortly after 8:30 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesday.
I liked seeing the pictures of the Indian people all cheering and excited. That was cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's about as far as I saw the news, though.
Everybody here knows my love. I don't care who's going. I just love any news and exploration information that we can get. So I'm excited about it.
And they landed, they're the first ones to land in a specific place that nobody's really explored, right? The South Pole area.
Yeah. And the Indian Space Research Organization's successful touchdown comes just days after a Russian spacecraft that was en route to the same area failed during an orbital maneuver and crashed into the lunar surface. The failure was a major setback for Russia's space agency known as Roscosmos. So congratulations to all the people who are working out. That's big. And hopefully we get some more information about our lunar surface there.
We love the moon around here.
Yeah. And we have another segment that we're going to have coming up at the beginning of September with Alice in Wonderland to tell us about the moon
next
phases and
time.
what's going on.
Allison will be here for our September moon update.
Yes, which we're looking forward to.
Yes, it's been a while.
Visualizing the mysterious dance, quantum entanglement of photons captured in real time. I posted this picture yesterday in our Discord.
And it was the frickin' yin yang symbol. What? We were just talking about that last week with Mark Hunter Brooks about how the ancient symbols for spiritual things just somehow also happen to be the quantum realm of stuff. It's like there's some connection there, and like how did we know this before we knew this? Because now it's like coming up in all the science, but the stuff's people knew this stuff already.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable.
It's like the idea of whether it could be coincidence or whether it's some unlearned, forgotten knowledge that people had, which, we've talked about quite a bit. But researchers at the University of Ottawa in collaboration with Danilo Zia and Fabino Schiarino from Sapienza University of Rome recently demonstrated.
I'm glad you're the one that has to try to pronounce names.
And I always do. I'm always looking at all the overseas stuff.
You know me. We'd be sitting for 10 minutes. I was trying to pronounce that.
You know what I do? I just go for it. And if I butcher it, at least I try with confidence, and I apologize.
You sounded confident.
And we just keep moving on, and I'll apologize if someone calls me out on it.
Yeah. Maybe I need to take a lesson from you on that.
They recently demonstrated a novel technique that allows the visualization of the wave function of two entangled photons, elementary particles that can constitute light in real time. Using the analogy of a pair of shoes, the concept of entanglement can be likened to selecting a shoe at random. The moment you identify one shoe, the nature of the other, whether it is left or right shoe, is instantly discerned, regardless of the location in the universe. However, the intriguing factor is inherent uncertainty associated with the identification process until the exact moment of observation, which kind of brings into my two things: a spooky action at a distance that we were talking about before, and then also, the Schrodinger's cat kind of stuff of something, has to be observed first. So I thought this was interesting just because of what Jenny had mentioned. I'm not sure exactly how they came upon these photos, but I thought it was worth posting because, just looking at it, the second I saw it, I was like, okay, why are scientists looking at a yin yang? Oh, that's not yin yang. Okay, so that's interesting, and like you said, very eerie after our conversation last week. I think it's just right on time. And then maybe something that might have something to do with some of the things we'll talk tonight. We'll find out in a little bit. But this article is about crystals dancing to the tune of light might replace batteries. Newly found material offers a glimpse into a future, one where devices are powered wirelessly.
Hold on. Wait, you hold on a second.
What's that?
Back it up here.
Yeah.
Because I was too busy. Keisha's trying to get me to do a stream about pronouncing things wrong. Did you say crystals dancing to light?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Crystals dancing to the tune of light might replace batteries.
Oh, let's make it even better. Crystals, light, and sound. Oh.
Yeah. A newly found material offers a glimpse into a future, one where devices are powered wirelessly. Are we waving goodbye to batteries? In our groundbreaking development, researchers from the Hayward Research Group at CU Boulder have unveiled a novel photomechanical material that has the potential to revolutionize various industries by converting light energy into mechanical work. Traditional methods of converting energy often involve multiple stages, leading to inefficiencies in the added bulk of energy stores, such as batteries. However, the new photomechanical material developed by CU Boulder scientists eliminates the need for cumbersome batteries or intricate electrical systems. And the article goes on, but that's the basics of what we have going on. So that could be, once again, it seems like the verge of a lot of technical breakthroughs in engineering and so on and so forth. So always exciting of what could just be around the corner. So nothing too weird for you tonight. No too weird science names.
I don't know. I can make anything weird, but there was no mud cracks this time, so
no
I guess
mud
we're
cracks
all right.
and coronal mass ejections. Although there was a story, just to say that there is a lot of stuff going on, and there's being some warnings put out about what's going on with the sun. We're reaching that time where there's going to be a lot of interference, and so they're expecting some issues with transmissions and stuff like that.
However, I felt like the last story that you shared was a great introduction, segue to our guest.
Yeah, so I'm excited about tonight. Please welcome to the show, Tom Paladino. Tom Paladino is I want to pronounce this right, is at Scalar Energy, research based in Florida, a researcher and humanitarian seeking to make a difference in the world by providing people with education and the tools to restore optimal health, and by helping enhance their quality of life. Scalar energy is a fundamental life force found everywhere in the world, space, and universe. He has theorized that all energy in the universe initiates as a scalar energy, and that the sun of our solar system and the stars of the universe are the points of origin, the storehouses, which we were just talking about in that story, for scalar energy. He further theorized that scalar energy is instructive energy, as the entire universe is instructed by this divine essence. Please welcome to the show, everyone, Tom Paladino, and welcome.
My honor. Thank you both. Thank you.
Wow.
So, I know
Where
you've
to
been
begin?
jumping at the bit. Yeah. So where do we still? I guess like the best way to start is always at the beginning. So
Because just the introduction is like got my mind just a spinning and a spinning and a spinning. Okay. So I know it says a little bit in your bio, but will you explain to us what scalar energy / light is, or is there a difference between the two, or is it the same?
Well, a precursor to my comment is when you mentioned about the discovery from the researchers at Rome and Ottawa who discovered quantum entanglement, and it showed a specific pattern. It showed the yin and yang symbol.
Mhm.
Why? Two objects at a distance still communicate with one another instantaneously. You can call that the yin and yang. You can call that quantum entanglement. You can call that action at a distance. I call it scalar energy. And that's what we're going to speak about tonight. I have behind me a scalar energy instrument, and what scientists are now proving in their laboratories, I've been able to prove with my instrument, a scalar energy instrument. So we're going to speak about the other dimension, not electromagnetic energy. We're going to speak about quantum entanglement, scalar energy, what some people call zero-point energy, which is the animating force of quantum entanglement. Why is it that the universe can communicate with itself instantaneously? It's energy. It's scalar energy.
So is it referred to as 0 point because it's the starting point of everything?
Yeah. Some people call it 0 point because you can't plot this out, say on a Cartesian grid system. In other words, 1 point represents the whole represents 1 point. It's holographic. So that type of algebra does not apply to scalar energy. It permeates the universe instantaneously. It transcends time and space. So we need a new physics to understand this. This energy is holographic. It transcends time and space. There is no time except the present moment. Space is overcome because everything is holographic. The point is the whole. The universe, the whole, is the point. So without trying to get too far into this, there is a new science that's evolving. 0 point energy, some people call it Tesla energy, others call it chi prana. It's not electricity. And I can prove that it exists by my instrumentation because I can access that dimension, which is outside of the electromagnetic dimension.
So do you think that there would be, when we figure all of this out, which it sounds like we're working on it, would there be two sets of rules, or are the old rules going to have to change?
No, the electromagnetic theory, God bless all the scientists who've labored throughout their lives with electromagnetic theory, much of that is true and accurate. The big drawback today in science is that there's two energies, and we can't accept the fact that there's a second energy. Hence, there's a second set of rules. There is a second paradigm. Now, Nikola Tesla never had that problem. Nikola Tesla, the great scientist, began with AC electricity. He's the father of AC electricity. Later in his life, Tesla was working exclusively, practically, with scalar energy. He was no longer interested in AC electricity. And those who can follow Tesla realize that he mastered both technologies, electricity, AC electricity, and scalar energy. We need other scientists today to be of that ilk, to realize that there's two energies and to separate, to distinguish those two paradigms and to just accept it and move forward. What paradigm are you going to focus on? I focus on the paradigm of scalar energy. It's that simple.
Yeah. So you think the hold up really is that people aren't willing to accept that that there needs to be a second set of rules for things, that they just want it to be this one way and that's it?
That's it. Yeah. And that sadly, that's their prejudice today. I'll give you a great example. When you look at a star, a quasar, or some type of a celestial body, many times astrophysicists will say, well, that doesn't behave according to the rules, the norms, the laws of electromagnetic science. They're absolutely right. A quasar behaves according to scalar physics, not electromagnetic physics. And I don't know why there's such prejudice. I don't know why we can't get over that fact that there's two energies.
Well, it seems.
Frosty, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Well, very, very simply, like I know listening to a lot of interviews from some astrophysicists, theoretical physicists, they talk about a unification theory that would be able. So are you saying that there's simply not a unification theory, that they need to base their ideas on two different sets of science?
There is a unification principle.
Okay.
The unifying field is scalar energy. Let me go back to my previous comment.
Okay.
If the whole is the point and the point is the whole, you can't distinguish because you transcend space. In a scalar energy paradigm, there's only one time frame, the present moment. There is no past, there is no future, there's only present. That's the unifying principle.
Gotcha.
If all space can be overcome because it's one point, it's holographic. If all time frames can be overcome because there's only one time frame, present moment, that's the unifying field. I'm going to make this so simple. All energy initiates is scalar energy. It's a double helix. When it leaves the sun and the stars, that's where it originates from, scalar energy breaks down into electromagnetic energy. So at the center of the sun, you have scalar energy. That's what drives the sun. That's why the sun and the stars never run out of light, of fuel. It's scalar energy. Removed from the sun and the stars, we live in an electromagnetic environment. It's that simple, and we've overlooked it.
Yes. And so many of the things that you've said so far, and we've only been talking for like 9 minutes or something. It's like all the things that come out in the spiritual world and with all the theories, it just fits right into that like a glove. Like there's no time. There is no time. Like that's a huge part of the spiritual thinking, is that when we're not here, that there is no time, and that it's perfect. Yes. And it's very simple. Yeah.
And it is.
It would also make sense to what the theoretical physicists are talking about, because they're looking for something, but it makes sense that what they're looking for isn't necessarily there because they're not looking at the whole picture. Maybe the view is somewhat obscured for them still. Which we were talking about, as we talked about before with our guest last week, Mark Hunter Brooks, whose main idea was that the metaphysical and the things we talk about on the show, the paranormal and things like that, can be explained through science. It's just going to take people like yourself, which maybe I can, you guys can share some info, because he has experiments that he wants to see done by people in science that he feels like they're overlooking, which it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
It is. It is. And again, once the world sees the eloquence of this and how simple it is, if creation is simple, then that calls to mind that it's a first principle, it's fundamental. Creation, if you will, evolves in complexity. I look at the universe, it's so simple. Everything starts with scalar energy, which is a double helix. And then that double helix will unbind into electromagnetic energy, where one component becomes electricity and the other becomes magnetism. It's that simple.
I love that it's a double helix too, because I've been a concept that I've been really kind of focused on, because I'm also an artist and I've been trying to show it in my art, is that the microscopic or the small is the same as the large. And
Yes.
we are made up of double helix. That's our DNA. And you're saying that that's the energy of the universe is the same.
Yes. Sometimes, if we're fortunate enough, you can actually photograph a scalar wave by Kirlian photography. And when you look at it, it's a double helix. And by the way, it's the exact ratio and proportion as that of human DNA.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
So the double helix of scalar energy downloads into us and creates our genomic form, creates our DNA, our life molecule. So the instructions that we receive from the sun and the stars instruct our genome, create the DNA, create and maintain life.
Beautiful. That's making me tear up.
And
So
you see how
I'm getting emotional here.
good. You see how simple this is. A lot of people have said they've looked at the complexity of the genome, and it is complex. But what's the underlying theory? What's the animating force? It has to be energy. Everything always starts with energy, light. Energy and light are fundamental. If you go back in time, you always find energy, light as the cause. Well, what gives rise to DNA? Scalar energy. So we are embodied with this divine light, scalar energy.
Amazing.
Okay. Well,
are you getting all this, Frosty? Has it sunk in? Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting it. Well, I'm the history guy, so once we get rid of time, you know me, like my degrees all of a sudden go out the window. So,
what do you mean there's no time?
And then I get words that I got to try to pronounce, and it just gets nasty from there. So I'm curious, how did all this start for you? How did this come? How did you manage to start getting into this field, and how did you come across these discoveries, as you will?
I've always enjoyed the gift of mysticism. God has given me wisdom. I can penetrate the matter. I can understand what would be arcane to some people. At age 10, 11, I started reading about Nikola Tesla. And at that age, I knew that Tesla was onto something extraordinary. And I looked at his inventions later in his life. I knew they were free energy devices. I knew that Tesla had found free energy. And I knew instinctively it probably wasn't electricity. Now, to this day, people think he was working with some type of rarefied electricity. No. Now, Tesla was building miniature stars. His Wardenclyffe Tower in New York was a miniature star. If you look closely at his tower in Long Island, New York, there's no wires. There's no moving parts. So where's the kinetic energy coming from? The stars. He captured star energy.
Wow.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because I know that Tesla, essentially people said that Tesla was working on creating energy without wires, and that energy could be harnessed by the earth. And so that itself would make a lot of sense, that it was the scalar energy that you're talking about. It doesn't have to be traversed on wires. It can just be taken from what's there. Because I guess everything would then have this light in it, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
So let me take the audience back. In 1898, Tesla was in New York City. He had a laboratory. Well, imagine this. The following year, in 1899, he moved out to Colorado Springs. He built out there in the Rocky Mountains. He built a tower surmounted by a copper dome, and with this tower that had no moving parts, he was able to create artificial lightning and illuminate light bulbs at a distance, and all of that by way of this tower out in, if you will, the ranching community at that time of Colorado Springs. So ask yourself, why would somebody leave New York City, travel to Colorado Springs over 100 years ago, erect a tower, and start experimenting with lightning? What's that all about? That was the first functioning scalar energy instrument that I know of. And he demonstrated it. And Tesla was able to create artificial lightning.
Wow.
He tapped into the free energy of the universe. Kind of obvious what he was doing. He was illuminating light bulbs. He would plant light bulbs in the ground, and the light bulbs would illuminate under the influence of scalar energy.
Wow, that's, I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard of those experiments before, but thinking about it under, with this information makes it even more interesting, because I've always thought of the concept of trying to use essentially like Wi-Fi electricity, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about a different kind of energy.
That's right. That's right. And Tesla was enthralled with this, and he wanted to power the world, and he had some resistance, because the bankers at that time realized that this was free energy, and that free energy would have upset the economic order. So Tesla Tesla had to pursue his career without the help of financing.
Yeah. And here we are still, over 100 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still using old, outdated stuff.
Free energy gets talked about a lot. There's been a lot of people who have claimed to, that it's available, and they were going to begin to use it and showcase it, and then magically it seems to disappear. And there's a lot of people that make a lot of that would lose a lot of money if that came to be. So I imagine there's probably some kind of reason that we never see it.
It's like comes to greed, probably, but who knows?
So we're on to something better now. The world is starting to realize that this is very much a reality, and the world is clamoring for a better idea. As we record this interview, we realize the world has an energy crisis. The fuel is limited. It's dangerous. It pollutes. People go to war over energy. We have to stop that. That paradigm doesn't work. So the new paradigm that I propose is free energy. In practice, it will be relatively inexpensive, and it's clean, because scalar energy does not involve any chemicals. There's no chemical reaction. It's non-physical.
Essentially, we're just talking about light. Is this done? So I'm just trying to wrap my mind around some of this still, because I understand the basic concepts of spooky action at a distance, quantum entanglement, all this stuff. But essentially turning that 1 0, that's a 1, and then the 1 flips and the other one turns into a 0, whatever. It's being done instantaneously, but is it the energy that's traversing essentially without time what's changing it? And if it's traveling, is it traveling in waves? What is the mechanics behind how that energy travels?
I'm going to call it an omnipresence. There is no point A and point B. Scalar energy, yes, scalar energy fills the universe. It fills every crack, every corner, every niche. And the point is, it must be some type of divine energy. How can you transcend time and space instantaneously and allow that energy not only to illuminate the world, the universe, but also to communicate with the world, the universe? How is it that this energy is all encompassing? Well, only scalar energy fits that bill, as opposed to a movement of electrons or some type of a force field that is created by electrons. We're not working with a force field of electrons. Scalar energy is everywhere. So it really has the hallmark of a divine energy.
So what kind of experiments did you start out with to start to get to the point where you are now for the things that you use it for?
I observed nature as a youngster. I didn't have scalar energy instruments, but I observed nature. And I knew that there were certain outcomes that were unique and that could not be explained by way of electricity or some type of electromagnetic action. For instance, thinking. A thought is instantaneous. You can think about something on a distant galaxy. So you're projecting to a distant galaxy. Well, that's much faster than the speed of light. So just thinking itself must be a scalar energy action because you're not bound by time and space. So whether it's an object that can move freely throughout the cosmos or a thought, whether it's a thought or a physical object, it still has the hallmark of being some type of communication in a scalar energy environment. If the top speed for light is 186,000 miles per second, well, obviously our thoughts, our emotions travel much faster than that. So what is it that would accommodate that type of paradigm? It has to be something outside of electromagnetic dimensions, scalar energy dimensions.
So that's interesting. The fact that our thoughts are instantaneous, or our thoughts are faster than the speed of light.
Yes. You need a paradigm for that. For instance, let me use this analogy. If you're driving down the road and the speed limit is 60 miles an hour, and let's say that's the limit. No car, no motor bus, no pickup truck can travel faster than 60 miles an hour. Well, that's your electromagnetic motif. That's the paradigm for travel. But then you see an airplane traveling at 500 miles an hour, and you say to yourself, well, that's far exceeding the 60 mile an hour limit. So what is it? It has to be some other type of energy field, some other type of force field that allows a plane to travel at 500 miles an hour. I'll just consider that analogy, and now compare the electromagnetic dimension, in which, could you imagine your thoughts would only travel at 186,000 miles an hour? No, your thoughts are instantaneous. Your emotion is instantaneous. So you need a paradigm to fit that. Here's another example. There are transcendent numbers where they're just repeating a number, they never end, a transcendent number. Well, in order to have a transcendent number, you have to have a transcendent universe. If a number can be described that's ongoing, that's repeating, that has an infinite number of values, then you have to have a universe in which that number can describe. So a transcendent, a never-ending number, only can work in a paradigm of a universe that's transcendent, that's a never-ending universe.
Yeah, we were just talking about this not too long ago in one of our newses or something, about the idea of infinity, and that there's, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Frosty, but wasn't it something about scientists trying to figure out if infinity really existed or something ridiculous? Wasn't that, we were talking about that, weren't we?
Oh, well, actually, we were talking about that on our last show. We were talking about the idea of everything turning back on itself with the Big Bang and the universal expansion, and that what we could be seeing is a cycle of universal expansion that's actually curving back in and of itself and creating another Big Bang. So you have energy, essentially, energy that's being put back together in some kind of infinite loop cycle. And I think we were talking a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and the numbers is a perfect example of infinity. The numbers, what you just said, which we knew, like the numbers go on forever. They don't end.
Such as pi, sure.
Yeah.
Now, here's one theorem that could prove our thinking. The double helix of scalar energy. There is a major axis and a minor axis. The major axis is 1.618 times the length of the minor axis of 1. So if the minor axis is 1, the major axis is 1.618 times the length. That 1.618 is phi, phi, which is a transcendent number, an infinite number, so to speak. So in every scalar wave, it's a double helix, you have the 1, the minor axis, and you have the major axis of 1.618 in length. So you have embodied in the double helix of scalar energy infinity.
Wow. That pi number sure is way more important than we even realized. It's going on forever and ever, even within the light and the energy.
Yeah. And if that's the thought, then you need a paradigm universe to fit that thought. So if my thoughts are instantaneous and you can travel across the universe instantaneously, and a number is infinite, then that infinite numbers needs an infinite universe to accommodate it.
Yes.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. An infinite amount of galaxies and universes and I guess possibly dimensions, which just brings up even more questions.
Yeah.
Well, before we move along, you said something that gave me an idea, something I want to ask you about. We've been talking recently a lot about the UAP sightings that have been going on, these tic tacs that the military has been seeing, and the subcommittee hearings for Congress and all that stuff. And so not to get derailed into a UFO conversation, but there has been a lot of speculation by some of the military officials that have seen this, that it almost seemed like they were projected and not an actual like craft. So it got me wondering when you said that if it is impossible to travel faster than the speed of light with our physical means and the science that we're using now, the energy that we're using, would it then be possible maybe for things to, obviously maybe this is people traveling using scalar energy and projecting light to show some kind of likeness? Like that could be a possibility with scalar energy?
Yes. We will be able to travel to galaxies by way of scalar energy because you overcome time and space. And you'll be able to travel at the speed of thought, not by staying in the electromagnetic paradigm, but going in a different dimension where you don't need propulsion. All you need to do is access the intelligence of scalar energy. So you don't need thrust, you don't need rocket fuel. You just need to enter into another dimension where you are moved by your thoughts. You can move yourself through thought. If a thought can move instantaneously, then you can move instantaneously.
And I imagine since our bodies are kind of in the other set of rules, that we would have to leave that behind and just travel with our mind.
Yes, but what I've seen,
we're opening up quite a can of worms here.
I don't think Frosty's going anywhere anytime soon.
I'll explain my theory by way of an example. There's a Russian scientist, his name was Viktor Grebenikov. He invented a scalar energy flying platform. He could levitate. He could experience anti-gravity. Now, when he was levitating and moving about on this scalar energy platform, he could move at 800, 900 miles an hour, and he had no G-forces. He also observed that his wristwatch would never advance because on a scalar energy anti-gravity platform, time does not exist.
There's
stands still.
No time. Yeah.
Yes. The time stands still. So his wristwatch would never advance. Furthermore, he felt that he became sort of like a plasma body, that he was no longer in physical form. He became what I would say like almost spirit-like, almost angelic-like, because it's a different type of molecular bond. You're no longer a rigid molecular bond. When you're in a scalar energy craft, you become spirit-like. That's the best way to describe it, because you're not under the influence of electromagnetic energy. Hence, you leave behind that anchor. That's a ball and chain. The electromagnetic paradigm is a ball and chain. And once you're into a scalar energy paradigm, you don't have that rigid molecular physical bond anymore. You're outside of that paradigm.
Well, Tom, I don't know about him, but I'm ready to get rid of the ball and chain.
Yes, and we're going to. And you're going to see
Yes.
that in our lifetime. You're going to see that.
Which that was one of my questions, is what do you think is the future of this energy?
Well, with God's grace and people willingly embrace this, we'll see that within the next 10 to 20 years. There's just so much evidence out there that scalar energy exists. It does, and that it's of great benefit. What I've demonstrated in my laboratory proves to mankind to be of great benefit. So you're going to see that within the next 10 to 20 years.
So speaking of your laboratory, will you show us and explain to us and demonstrate what you have going on?
Okay. I'm going to take the camera and just show one of my instruments. This instrument is functioning right now. This is a scalar energy instrument. It's on. It's operating. Now, these, again, are not electrical instruments. These are scalar energy instruments. You'll see I'm pointing to a Tesla coil. And to demonstrate to your audience that this is different, it's unique, as Tesla was able to illuminate light bulbs, I'm able to illuminate a light bulb. So I hold in my hand a fluorescent tube. When I pass it close to the instrument, it lights up. It animates. Now, obviously, fluorescent tube is still in its factory package.
It's still in the package.
So that's an example of free energy.
Wow.
This instrument is a miniature star. Now, the fact that scalar energy can be utilized anywhere, it traverses the universe in a flash, so to speak, and it can pass through an object. I'll demonstrate. This is a cutting board, a wooden cutting board. I hold that up to the instrument. That cutting board cannot prevent scalar energy from illuminating the light bulb.
Wow. Goes right through it.
Goes right through it.
Wow.
It goes right through it. So this is an example of free energy. These are free energy devices. Here's another example. I'm holding in my hand a light bulb, and it illuminates.
That's
passes
amazing.
right. The energy passes right through the wood. So that's one of the examples of a scalar energy instrument. Now, these instruments transcend, pass through, so to speak, anything. This instrument transcends time and space. So with that in mind, I'm no longer working with electricity. I'm working in a different dimension. And with that, I can do incredible things with this scalar energy instrument.
All right.
So go ahead, Frost.
Okay. So, all right. Without running the risk of sounding like a complete moron, I want to ask, so why don't I have one of those systems running my house? Because I was just having a conversation about my electric bill the other day.
let's go back. Let's go back to 1899 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely astonishing.
Now, why aren't we using this technology? I'm trying to get the word out. Tesla tried to get the word out. Even though I've demonstrated this time and time again, it's amazing. As they say, the silence is deafening.
Mm-hmm.
I've been ignored for years. And thank you for this opportunity to present this to your audience. This type of discovery should be mainstream headline news. No, it's not. So I need help to get the word out. What's the point here? This is free energy. You know, if I can illuminate a light bulb locally, eventually we're going to be able to illuminate a city. And if you can illuminate a city, well, there goes your energy crisis. You don't have to worry about drilling for oil or tapping into hydrogen or wind farms, nuclear power. So this is a paradigm shift. This will disrupt the economic order. Mark my word. Scalar energy is going to change the way we live.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to ask, Tom, with this information and knowing how to engineer a device like that, have you tried to do that on a larger scale or have you done it?
I am experimenting right now to send energy at a distance to light up a building. I hope that God gives me the wisdom to do that.
Okay.
We're in the process of, everything has to be engineered. We're in the process of engineering some special type of equipment over the next 2 years. Then we'll start experimenting. Keep in mind, everything I do has to be fabricated from scratch. You can't buy any of this. It's all custom built.
Well, as CMC Airboss said in chat, this is going to completely change the vacation travel industry. And you are right about that.
He's an airplane pilot, so.
So really quickly, for those who have just, if you've come in the middle and you're not sure exactly what is going on, we have one tonight, Tom Paladino, and we are talking about scalar energy. We are talking about free energy, 0 point energy. And you have come in at just the right time because we're really getting into some deep stuff and there's a lot more to get to here.
And just so everybody knows, all of his links for all his social media and his website are pinned up at the top.
And for those listening, after if you're listening to this later on podcast or on YouTube, just so they'll be pinned down at the bottom, but that's scalarlight.com, SCALAR light.com. You can follow him at Twitter at light_scalar and Instagram.com at scalarlight and YouTube at Tom Paladino, Paladino. So make sure you go and like all those and keep up with it because it sounds like there's even more to come. So,
and we haven't gotten into what he uses it for.
No, and that actually brings up a good thing.
But when we get there, he's going to tell you all the amazing things that he can do with it. And he's offering everybody 15 free days of Scalar Light sessions. So keep that in mind when we get to it. But there are quite a few questions popping up in the chat here. So Keisha wanted to know, how do you feel around the energy? Can you feel it physically, as it moves over portions of your body?
Yes, I can. I feel it right now. My body is pulsing. Scale energy really is a pulsation, if you're to describe it. I feel it. My entire side is feeling this energy from the Tesla coil. Once again, the instrument is on. And on a psychic level, it increases my awareness. I believe it heightens my spirituality, and it makes me happy. This is source energy, divine energy. There's no physical component here. So this will balance our brain waves and our chakras, and it makes me happy. It makes people happy.
Well, where can we go wrong then? What are we waiting for, people? Can we just get on with it already? Take the ball and chain off. Unplug your damn electrical devices. Let's do this.
Because Jenny's ready to take off. Well, she already is, but this would be.
I already do. But
so we have another question. Does the proximity effect to the Tesla coil work on LED lighting or other non-fluorescent kinds of lighting?
Yeah, I'm also able to illuminate LED lighting. So you have to be pretty close to that force field. Once again, within say 6 inches, the light will illuminate. But the key is this: if I can do that now, and I can, if that's 1x, and eventually we can potentiate this 1,000-fold or 10,000-fold, then not only will I be able to illuminate a light bulb in my hand, but halfway across the world. So it's just a matter of time. So this is the working model. This is our 1x. What we're trying to fabricate now is some type of device that will magnify the output. And if we can magnify that 10,000-fold or 100,000-fold, then that's it. We've solved the energy crisis. We're going to get there someday.
Laura had a question. How long did it take you to develop your device?
It's a quick story is this. I'm not the original inventor. A man by the name of Galen Hieronymus developed these prototypes back in the 30s and 40s. I met the Hieronymus family in 1993. Never met the inventor, but I met his family. And the family at that time would sell me some miniature scalar energy instruments. Well, since then, I've taken his work and I've amplified it, so to speak. I've increased the power of those instruments. So Galen Hieronymus was the inventor. I have taken up his work, and with a group of manufacturers and an engineer, a very brilliant engineer, we've been able to create very powerful scalar energy instruments. So that's been my 30 years of practical application.
And so
Wonderful.
the instrument itself is basically a Tesla coil, or a Tesla coil that's been modified, or
No, the Tesla coil is really the caboose to the instrument. But the instrument, I'll show it again. The instrument can develop a double helix. This instrument, especially, I'm pointing to a vacuum tube. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
The vacuum tube, Tesla used vacuum tubes, and so did another inventor by the name of Moray. Why? A vacuum tube sets up, this is like a miniature star. Can't do this with solid state, because then that's man's interpretation of space and time. To the contrary, create a vacuum tube that allows the energy to develop in that vacuum tube, and then you can send that energy into the Tesla coils. So this instrument develops the double helix. It's a scalar energy instrument. By the time it finds its way into the Tesla coils, it's already a scalar wave, and the Tesla coil simply broadcasts that energy far and wide.
I appreciate the explanation there, because you have to speak to me like I'm a child, and I'll get it.
The key is this. What I just demonstrated is a miniature star.
Yes.
This instrument is a miniature star. Why does it behave this way? Well, it's star-like. If I took a light bulb and I was in the center of the star, it would illuminate a light bulb. Well, this is a miniature star. Now, I simply have to gain power, amplify the scalar wave, and I'll have a very powerful star, a miniature sun.
Okay.
I love it. So, will you tell us what you do with it? What are the Scalar Light sessions?
Yeah, the Scalar Light sessions are sessions where I work with people and animals throughout the world through their photograph. I never work with people or animals in the flesh, so to speak. But let me explain. Again, this is scalar theory, not electromagnetic. This is my photograph. I place a photograph of a person inside the instrument. The instrument sends energy into the quantum plane. Not a biological process, it's an informational process. By quantum entanglement, that's my bilocated version. That's my quantum double. A photograph is the quantum entanglement of a person.
Well, that's really scary.
Thank you. A photograph is my bilocated version. My heartbeat can be found on that photograph.
Think of all the photographs of people there are out and floating around in the world. That's very interesting.
I'll extrapolate upon that comment. Give me some time.
Okay.
My photograph represents. So anywhere a person is in the world, it doesn't matter. Send me your photograph. We access you through the quantum plane. This is your aura, your spirit, your bilocated version. Call it what you will. Some people you've heard have been able to bilocate. That's true. People can be in two places at once. I know there's many stories of Catholic saints that can bilocate, be in two places at once.
Yes.
Is that true? Yes, it's quantum entanglement. So when people send me their photograph, they bilocate to my laboratory. This is what some people call action at a distance, or quantum entanglement, or the other dimension. It's only possible with a scalar energy paradigm. The scalar energy environment always facilitates bilocation or trilocation or multi-location. In an electromagnetic paradigm, can only be in one place at a time.
That gave me many different ideas. So when photography was invented and Native Americans were asked to be photographed, they didn't want to because they thought it was stealing their souls. And really, they had something right.
They're right. They're absolutely right.
right.
And see, they understood that intuitively.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a very strong spiritual sense, and they understood that. And you're absolutely right. My photograph captures my energy. So my processes are energetic on photographs. So you don't have to come to the laboratory. You send your bilocated version, your photograph.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
keep going.
What does that mean? Well, remember, scalar energy is so strong it will illuminate a light bulb. So when I place a person's photograph inside the instrument for 1 hour, I perform this chakra balance. So the amount of energy into that light bulb is the same identical energy entering into their brain waves, into their 7 chakras.
Mm-hmm.
This is a chakra balance. You can perform a chakra balance with a scalar energy instrument. You can't do that with electricity. So for 1 hour a day, I balance a person's chakras. And it's tangible. People say their dream state enhances, that they're happier. Some people give up cigarettes or recreational drugs. Other people say that they're no longer depressed. If you have that much energy entering into your chakras, it's going to change you. It's going to change your mood. It's going to have an impact upon your psyche, all through the agency of your bilocated version, through quantum entanglement.
Wow.
So
do you think that there would be, would it be exactly the same if you were doing it in person versus with a photograph?
I do. The reason being, the photograph is me energetically. I am the photograph. Now, this is the new science. It's as good as working with the person. I'll go on record. I never work with people. I can't fit people. This is a small. That's a small instrument. But what I can do is miniaturize the photographs. Earlier today, I was working with 500,000 photographs.
Wow.
500,000 people do not come to my office.
No, that would be a lot.
Right. I take 500,000 photographs, miniaturize them, and their quantum version, not their biological version. This is my biological version.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my quantum version. I work with the bilocated version, the quantum version. This is the new science in which you don't work with people, you work with their aura or their spirit or their non-physical being.
Which is what I do.
This is prayer.
Yeah.
I've just proven prayer meditation.
Mm-hmm.
If you can pray, now remember, instantaneously you can pray or think. Prayer, thought moves instantaneously. Well, so does scalar energy. This is a prayer machine. This is consciousness.
So we do have some more questions from chat. Frosty, would you like to read one of them?
So CMC Airboss said, does the bilocation effect work for videos or 3D projections, or is it just photographs?
I typically work with photographs because people can email me photographs.
Yes.
But if, now going back to the old school, if you remember the 8-track videos that we had, if you actually have a video on film, that will work. You could place that in an instrument. Or an X-ray will work. I've worked with X-rays before. So it has to be an actual photographic representation of a person. An X-ray is fine, a Polaroid. In the 90s, I was working with Polaroids. Now I work with email, the digital world. but it has to be some type of recreation of a photograph. Their actual skin must be photographed somehow. So can't put this on a CD-ROM because that's not per se a printed photograph.
You must go through a lot of printer ink.
A lot. Very good. A lot.
Yeah, just that alone.
So now we just need some free energy or our free 0 point ink, and we'll be good. We'll be good to
go. Yeah. No, that's astute. That's a good observation.
Well, as a photographer as well, I know how it doesn't take long for one of them ink cartridges to run out. Keisha had a question. So she said, when you have a photograph of a lost loved one, you truly have a piece of them with you. She always believed that, but she didn't know why.
You're absolutely right. Because their memory is on that photograph for eternity.
Wow.
You're right.
Yeah. Oh, here's another good question. Floor wanted to know if it would also apply to painted portraits.
No, it has to be an actual photograph. Why?
It has
because
to be a photo.
A graphic image or a painting is not the reproduction of a person. This is my bilocated identity. This is my identity on film. So it cannot be a graphic image or a painting.
Plus, I would think a painting would have the energy of the painter as part of it as well.
That's true. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the photograph is actually capturing some of that person's scalar energy, like the reflection of the photons, the reflection of the light is coming from that person's body. So I guess that's the reason behind that.
Oh my God, because photography is recapturing light.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
This is your light. This is my light signature.
It's just light.
Yes, that's all it is. This is my light signature. I follow the laws of science. Light, as we all know, is immutable. It follows the laws of science. Light energy is fundamental. You cannot bend or change those fundamental laws. So this is my fundamental signature. So
it all clicked into place now. It all clicked. It was clicking.
So everything I do, I abide by the laws of science. And that's why my process is mistake proof. I only work with light. There's no human reason.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. So another question here, because there's been a lot of separation here between like one set of rules and another set of rules. And we're talking about scalar energy and not our mechanical energy. We're talking about the possibility of travel through the mind and thought and all these things that can break the paradigm of what the body is in. So does the scalar light healing also have the same effect? Is that only healing chakras and energy levels in the humans? Or is there also physical ailments that scalar energy can also heal?
Yeah, I've developed a process. Now, remember, everything I do is by way of photographs, so there's no interpretation. I'm going to hold up a photograph of a virus. That's the Epstein-Barr virus. If I place this photograph of Epstein-Barr close to my photograph, the two photographs communicate with one another. It's all energy. It's not a chemical process. So Epstein-Barr communicates with my photograph, right?
Okay.
And if I place those two photographs, the light communicates Epstein-Barr with me. And what happens? The signature of Epstein-Barr enters into me, finds Epstein-Barr in my quantum field, and brings it to a state of chaos. So a photograph of a virus identifies and brings to a state of chaos the virus inside of me.
Okay.
So if the virus is held together by intelligence, coherence, this instrument brings the virus to a state of incoherence, discord, chaos. The virus falls apart. It's that simple.
Wow.
Okay. And so that can be done with the virus. That can be done with some kind of infection, I would imagine, with bacteria.
Yes.
Can that be done with cancer?
Not yet, but
Not yet.
It's a different technique, but I hope to be able to perfect that. So I've perfected the technique with microbes, with germs. I have a library of over 400,000 species of germs, microbes. We call it our pathogenic cleanse. We're able in one day to identify potentially now 400,000 species of protozoan, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and eradicate them. All through quantum intelligence, not a chemical process. All through their their bilocated version. We never work with people. We work with their bilocated version, a photograph.
So essentially, for almost well, I'm not going to say almost everything, for a lot of things, there would be no need for medical procedures, medicine, surgeries, etc.
We're getting to that point, yes.
Wow.
Disease is poor communication or lack of communication. If we send the correct communication, the correct instructions, we should be able to correct disease. That's where we're going. That's energy medicine. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
That part is making my brain hurt a little bit. Mr. Weird had a question. I think his question is a little hard to understand, but so he's asking about like the negative or the dark side, like the opposite of light. Like, how does that kind of fit into all that?
Yeah, and he was talking about the X-rays too. The negative of the X-ray being the reverse. Mm-hmm.
Everything has a signature, including an X-ray, and that signature is you. My photograph, whether this is say 3 years old, or I could work with my baby photographs, which would be 60 years old, it's still my signature. So light never makes a mistake, and light always identifies the source. Now, it could either be my light source, the light source of people, or I could photograph a car and treat a car. I'm going to go back to an earlier thought. Remember, I mentioned how you can photograph of a virus and send that energy into me. This is what I think is happening. The energy of Epstein-Barr travels into my quantum plane. If this is matter, then it becomes antimatter in my body.
Okay.
What is antimatter? It breaks down the molecular form of the Epstein-Barr virus. You can only do that in the scalar energy paradigm. We've heard that term before, antimatter. If this virus is matter in this physical realm and this electromagnetic realm, when we put that virus in a scalar energy realm, it becomes antimatter. It loses its molecular form, its molecular rigidity. So we have to define these terms, but that might be one of the terms that we use in the future, in which everything in a scalar energy paradigm loses its molecular integrity, becomes spirit-like. And that's why the Epstein-Barr virus, that was once matter in the electromagnetic spectrum, becomes antimatter, or the state of chaos, in the scalar energy paradigm.
All right.
Now I'm having to let my mind get wrapped around that one. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it just comes down to the light, to the energy, whatever it can recognize, whatever it can connect with. So not only does it necessarily connect with, well, I guess that becomes a complicated question, but not just something that's necessarily what we consider sentient, but it could connect with anything because everything has scalar energy. So essentially, we talked earlier about the planet producing scalar energy as well. So then we could possibly even use that for negative effects that have happened to the planet eventually, if we were able to produce this on a large enough scale.
Yep, we're going to get there. I'll get the audience. So for instance, I have a lot of friends in Hawaii. There's a blight, the rapid Ohia death in Hawaii. It's a fungus that's attacking the ohia tree, OHIA. And it's a prominent a tree in the Hawaiian Islands. Anyway, my friends, after they send me photographs of the ohia tree, I can treat out that fungus, cystis, and the life, but the trees don't die. So we've treated tens of thousands of ohia trees, and they're not dying.
That's wonderful.
So if we can do that with us as a small group of people, as a grassroots effort, then we should be able to treat the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to treat everybody in the world, 8 billion people. We should be able to treat all of the animals, all of the trees.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, quite a difference it could make, because not only are we talking about the healing and all the things that, your work that you're doing with this now, but it would also require a complete paradigm shift in the way people think, that I think would have an astronomical effect too. Because we really are a science that is moving towards the metaphysical and spiritual movement, which, you mentioned at the beginning. I really do. And we've talked about that quite a bit on this show. And you mentioned at the beginning too, that you really do feel, and we really do feel like the world seems to be moving in that direction. So maybe that will lead to this technology being embraced more. And I imagine that's what you're hoping, that we're on the verge that the paradigm shift is happening.
It is. And because of grassroots movement like ours tonight, and to be very clear, it's the people who will bring this forward. They must. See, that's the one thing that Tesla was missing. The internet. Tesla did not have the internet.
Poor Tesla.
Yes, I know.
If Tesla would have been able to avail himself of the internet, it would have been game over. But he was ostracized.
Yes.
Well, we can overcome those obstacles today.
Yep.
Well, his work was scurried away after he deceased, captured by the United States government, and secreted away. And I guess it's, with revelations like this and the conversation we've had so far tonight, it's a shame. But I guess to a certain degree, when certain people are in power and certain people had a lot invested in making sure that information didn't come out, you could understand why.
Absolutely right.
Yeah,
we're going to change the world with this energy. It's so easy to use. It's not expensive. It's easy, clean energy. There's no pollution. I can do the work of 1 million people. I'm not bragging. What am I getting at? Today I work with 500,000 people.
yes.
Yeah.
If people would send me photographs, I could work with 2 or 3 million people. That's what I call the multiplier effect. So I don't have to go out and meet 1 million people. I have 1 million photographs sent to me. That's the multiplier effect. This is going to make things easy. This is going to eliminate work. This will liberate mankind.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, well, I have a bunch of questions coming, so I'm sorry if I keep jumping different ways. We recently did another version of this podcast where we talked about a government program, a supposed government program called Project Pegasus, that dealt with time travel beginning in let's say the late 1960s through the 1980s, supposedly. And the person who's reported this and talked about this also says that technology was from Tesla, that it was all came from Tesla's work, and it was work that was essentially stolen after Tesla died. So we talked about there not being there not being time at the scalar level. So is there a possibility that I guess we talked about it a little bit, there's a possibility of being able to time travel if we were able to access this 0 point mode?
That's correct. Yes. And keep in mind, there really is no distance that cannot be surmounted with scalar energy. It should be just as easy to travel across the country as it would be to travel to a different galaxy. I could think about an object across the country, or I could think about an object at a distant galaxy, and that thought travels around the country, or if you will, outside of our galaxy instantaneously. So you have to wean yourself away from those paradigms of, those parameters of time and space. There is no time and space.
Which,
So, yes.
remember, Frosty, what he said about the 0 point energy is a hologram, and what were they using in those time travel experiences in Project Pegasus?
Well, they were. Have you heard of that before, Tom? Project Pegasus.
I've heard of it, but I can't vouch for it. So continue.
Well, so it's just interesting, only because there's a lot of things that are in common with what you're talking about tonight. So, in his story, what he testifies to be true, that he was a time traveler in Project Pegasus, which they called chrononauts for the U.S. government. That essentially they used a device that had been developed by Tesla and then later by DARPA and stuff like that. But what would happen is that the device would actually they would interact with time as a hologram. So they would go to that place, but they were a hologram in that time, but they could still interact with it.
Yes, that's the spirit-like that I'm speaking of. You become spirit-like. Now, that's necessary because you can't take your physical body and subject to those G-forces. If you become part of the plasma, see, this is what scalar energy is. It's a plasma field. It's no longer bound by molecular rigidity. And if you become part of the plasma, then you can move at the speed of thought.
Wow. Well, we are on some groundbreaking ideas tonight. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting ready to just fly out of my chair. I'm ready to go.
We had more questions from the Peanut Gallery. Keisha is asking, so with that, what about the light form or energy of photographs of the deceased, whether that be microbes no longer living or animals / people?
Whatever I put into this instrument, I can access it through the quantum realm, through the scalar energy realm, including the deceased. Now, with the deceased, again, there's no time and space. They might be deceased, but it's as if we can access them as quickly as a thought. Sometimes people will send me photographs of deceased family members, and I'm sure I access them through this paradigm. And the outcome, I can't vouch for that. I've never spoken to somebody who's passed, but nonetheless, it's science. I follow the laws of science, whether you're living or dead.
We're hung up real quick, Tom. We're cutting out a little bit. Hopefully we'll get you back in just a second. So while we're going through this technical hiccup right now, hopefully we get them right back. If not, there we go. So while we have a quick break, just for those who have come in, we are speaking to Tom Paladino. We're talking about scalar energy, and we're talking about scalar energy light healing and all the possibilities that represents. You can click the tab at the top of chat, and that will link you to his website, scalarlight.com. And you can follow him on Twitter at light_scalar and Scalar Light on Instagram and YouTube at Tom Paladino. And also for the listeners tonight and for you listening to the podcast or catching us on YouTube later, Tom is offering 15 days of free Scalar Light sessions. So make sure, and I imagine there will be, possibly including myself, who are going to give that a try. So we were right in the middle of that answer, and you kind of cut out on us. Do you want to try that again?
Okay. Whether you're living or deceased, you're still accessed by that scalar energy dimension. So whether it's a photograph of a person alive or dead, once you're in the scalar energy dimension, we find you. We find your essence, no matter where you are. Now, with that in mind, again, nothing can stop this energy. I showed how this energy passed through a wooden board. Well, this energy can also find you anywhere in the world or in the universe, for that matter. For instance, my predecessor, his name was Hieronymus, once again, the inventor. He was working with the Apollo 11 astronauts while they were orbiting the moon by way of their photograph. And he was able to pick up the biorhythms of the astronauts by way of their photograph while they were on the moon and orbiting the moon.
Wow.
So distance is nullified. There is no distance.
Quantum entanglement. Yeah.
It's quantum entanglement. Yep. In other words, in his laboratory, Hieronymus had 3 astronauts in his laboratory, but they were on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's quantum entanglement. It's the way you look at it. It's your perspective.
And so not only does the light find you, but the light is going to find you instantaneously.
Yes. And here's another interesting story. When the astronauts on Apollo 11 went around the moon to the dark side of the moon, Hieronymus, with his scalar energy instrument, could keep in touch with the astronauts while they're on the backside, the dark side of the moon. However, NASA lost contact with the astronauts on the dark side of the moon because they were using electromagnetic radio waves. Hieronymus kept in contact with the astronauts while they were on the dark side of the moon. Meaning what? That the moon cannot stop scalar energy.
The moon was the equivalent of your wooden cutting board.
Yes.
And so was he working with anybody specifically when he was doing that experiment? Was like anyone knowledgeable about what he was doing?
Yes, he was working hand in hand with NASA.
That's what it sounded like.
Yes, he was. And he was also working with the Defense Department back then in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he was working with the Food and Drug Administration. And there was a keen interest on the part of the federal government of the United States back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But guess what? There's no interest today. There's no interest today. Now ask yourself, why was it 50 years ago that he worked hand in hand with NASA during the Apollo 11 lunar mission, and today he's ridiculed, he's relegated to the dustbin? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, we stopped going to the moon too.
For the same reason as Tesla.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is a threat. This technology is a threat to the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, and we know, like, well,
and
we know,
a lot of people's pockets.
Well, going back to that story, and this is where I actually, I'm not completely lost in the sauce for once. I mean, because we know Tesla was in a battle with Thomas Edison, and Thomas Edison was backed by J.P. Morgan, which was the biggest banker of the time. And so he was able to essentially put Tesla out of business, which is obviously, if this is what's happening, the same thing, like you still have that same interest that was pushing that information down. So there's a couple of interesting comments I want to bring up from another chatter we have in here, Shadow Max. This is going back a little bit, but 2 particles in quantum entanglement keep their synchronization with each, regardless of distance between them, even over vast distances. Seems your technique, Tom, is manipulating this effect somewhat.
Yes, very good. So if 2 objects at a distance can communicate simultaneously, and I can communicate with a person's force field simultaneously, I find myself on the, and no matter, let's say I was on the moon with the Apollo 11 astronauts, my photograph is receiving energy instantaneously. It's reporting my constitution. My soul, mind, and body are on that photograph.
Wow.
This is the new science. And once the world gets a hang of this and they realize that this is possible, this will change our lifestyle. This will change the way we live.
Absolutely.
And so it just makes me wonder about the photograph, because if you're capturing the person's energy in the photograph, then you're capturing their soul in the photograph. And I know this might not be, I don't know where you are with that, Tom, but Jenny is medium Jenny Lee. So it makes me curious. Could you do a reading for a photograph? Like if there's a soul captured, like is that?
I mean,
let me let me say this. Their soul is on that photograph. If Dr. Hieronymus during his day was able to find the pulse rate or the organ functions of the Apollo 11 astronauts while they were 250,000 miles away on the moon, then regardless of distance, you can find whatever that person is experiencing at that moment is on the photograph. If my heartbeat is 78 beats a minute, that photograph is going to report 78 beats a minute. This is quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm able to read for people just knowing their screen name. I mean, we've had that conversation many times.
Yeah, we've had that conversation many times.
That
I
I'm
didn't think
just
it would work, and it worked.
I'm just
well.
tapping into their energy. I don't have to see them. I don't have to know what their real name is. And a lot of people, psychics and mediums that work with missing people cases will use a photograph of the person to help them locate the missing person. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
It's all the same thing. Because it's just energy. Yeah.
So typically, how long for these scalar for what you do with the scalar healing? How many typically, from the feedback you get, how many sessions does it take for people to see some kind of results from their sessions?
Many people who are sensitive say after 2 or 3 days they feel a surge of energy. They're happier. So if you're sensitive within the first 2-3 days, so sensitive, you're not so tuned with your body. After 2 weeks, most people say, well, I feel different, but they can't quite put their finger on it. And I don't blame them because they've never experienced this before. This is a unique instrument. My protocol is unique. So long story short, usually within a few days, most people start feeling something.
So I was looking at your website, and you have a lot of different programs for different types of things, like, for example, metabolism or addictive behaviors. So how do you differentiate the sessions for those specific things?
Yeah. So when people send us a photograph, to their election, they will decide if they want to sign up for the standardized program that I just explained, or we have ancillary programs. We have digestive enzymes, in which will assemble protease and lactase, etc. Various types of proteins and enzymes. We have a minerals and precious stones program. We have a natural foods program. So you have to view the website and read the articles and then say to yourself, what would benefit me? How am I going to benefit by this technology, this quantum entanglement technology? I'll explain how we work with what I would call digestive enzymes, or say some type of a micronutrient. Again, everything is a photograph. Why? Photographs don't make mistakes. That's riboflavin. That's a magnified photograph of riboflavin. Again, working with only sources of energy. If I place a photograph of riboflavin side by side mine, we download the information of riboflavin into my quantum plane. Photograph never makes a mistake. A photograph is a source of light. So this source of light sends energy into my quantum field. Now, what people tell us is that their skin is clearer, their complexion improves, their nails are stronger, their range of motion improves. Many people say that their eyesight sometimes improves through this nutrient program. Now imagine what I'm getting at. By sending the energy of a nutrient into the quantum field, not a process, we're finally receiving the energy of the nutrients that we need. Because scalar energy will treat a person from head to toe. So you don't have to worry about a biological process or the bloodstream, the circulatory system to deliver the product. You deliver the energy by light. It's non-physical. It's energy of riboflavin that's downloaded into a person.
Because the energy carries the information.
Yes. The energy is the information. The information is the energy.
Yeah.
This is the instantaneous thinking of scalar energy. What are we getting at? You don't need an infrastructure. I never said I needed a substation, transformers, satellites. I don't need a cell phone tower. I access the universe. I have a free infrastructure. It's the universe.
It's all provided for us if we could just get it going.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
I've heard many times that light, and this is going with the other system, that light would be the best way to carry messages into deep space. Of course, the light that we're using, the mechanical method. And so if with scalar energy, I imagine, like you said, that light still carries information, but with quantum entanglement, so it happens instantaneously. Wow. Wow.
And this is the road that we're coming upon, people.
It's coming. I feel it too, for sure. Like we're getting there.
Well, that's
it's time
definitely
for
type
things
1.
to change. Time for things to change, and it is changing slowly.
Yeah, we've been getting there. It's accelerating that type 1 civilization of being able to move on finally to a different vibration or whatever it is.
A different way of being.
Yeah.
Which is really the way that we should have been from all along.
Tesla tried to introduce this new way of living. Tesla wanted mankind to flourish. And you could see what a crime it was against his genius and against his work to suppress that technology. It's a gift from God. To suppress that gift from God, it was terrible.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I had another question about if this learning all of this or experiencing all of this changed the way that you thought about God, about divine, about spirituality. Did you already feel that way before, or has it changed your thoughts since?
It's only served to intensify my thoughts and if you will, to put into concrete that yes, there is an all-pervading, omnipresent God. You have to have some type of supreme force to control scalar energy. And I've always said you have to have an uncreated being to create a universe. A universe cannot spontaneously create. So whatever precedes creation was uncreated.
Mm.
So do you think that God is the scalar energy, or it's two separate things?
I believe scalar energy is one of the attributes of God. I believe scalar energy is his divine light. If this energy is everywhere instantaneously, only God can be everywhere instantaneously. So scalar energy has to be divine. It's one of his divine characters.
It's the creation.
It's the creating force of the universe.
If we get into religions, I mean, that's what Christianity says, that there was light, right?
I've always had the belief that the Ark of the Covenant was a scalar energy device.
Ooh.
That the Ark of the Covenant was powered by scalar energy. It was the presence of God.
Wow. So it wasn't going to melt your face off when you opened it in the Indiana Jones movie.
I know. Maybe healing instead.
Yeah, maybe healing instead.
Which makes more sense.
Yes. I keep feeling too like the whole idea that we're created in the image of God is really just the idea of the fact that God is a creator, and hence we are creators. But your double helix of the scalar light and our double helix of our DNA also makes me feel like that is a whole nother level of it that I didn't really think about until right now.
It is another level. We've seen just we're peeling away the onion, and we're going back to the underlying cause. And I will equivocation, the underlying cause of all phenomenon is light, scalar energy. What is the first domino that topples? It has to be the cause. Everything else is the effect. Light energy is always the cause. It's fundamental. Only light energy is fundamental. Everything else is a derivative of light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the divine, I mean, the divine has historically always been light.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge has always been light.
Associated with it. Yep.
Knowledge has been light. The divine has been light. The worship of the sun, the worship of...
You referred to as enlightened if you are knowledgeable of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
To paint halos on, the saints and the angels and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, even going back to Ra or whatever religion, it tends to always go back to the source of light. And like you said, even in civilizations that didn't necessarily have like deities, you still had the idea of enlightenment.
Or worshiping the sun.
Exactly. So once again, going back to our news article today, where we talked about the yin and the yang, like this kind of scientific knowledge that could have been ingrained in these ancient beliefs that have, I don't know, been forgotten or hidden or whatever, Tesla'd away thousands of years ago.
Tesla'd away.
Because there's a danger, I guess, possibly for people having that knowledge, at least the people who are controlling those people.
You're right. So nature abounds with its evidence. You cannot fool nature. I saw those photographs of that quantum entanglement in which you see the yin and the yang symbol. Okay, that's rather apparent. That's the geometry. That's the intelligence of scalar energy. And it only makes sense. You have constructive and then destructive. You have inward and you have outward. Centripetal, centrifugal, male, female, light, darkness. So that is the fundament of the universe that we're speaking of, scalar energy. And I saw those photographs from the research teams in Ottawa and Rome, and they did photograph at a microscopic level that image of the yin and yang. That's the geometry. It's very real. So what the philosophers knew for millennia, now we can vouch for by way of electron microscopy. It's real. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all coming together.
It's interesting. It's a lot to wrap my mind around for sure. It's something that I'm sure we have a Discord channel, Tom, and we usually, after we have a chance to ponder these ideas over the next, days, people will be trickling out revelations they had after they've listened to the show and thought about it as they're falling asleep, or the next day they're at work and it's like, oh, Eureka. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of that going on this week.
That's what it takes. These ideas have to percolate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it all is groundbreaking research on my part and the other researchers. And that's where we're at right now. We're still at that nascent stage. We're still in first grade, and there's no harm in saying that. Mm-hmm. I'm still in first grade. It's a learning prospect. It's a new science. It's not taught at the university level. That's okay. It eventually will be.
So
yeah, I have a feeling you're right about that. I really do. I really feel like there's a paradigm shift, and it makes a lot of sense that something like this would go along with it. What were you going to say, Jenny?
I wanted to know what Tom, your ideal perfect existence for us humans on this little blue planet using this energy, what would that look like to you?
Well, this is going to eliminate scarcity, amongst other things. If you look at the economic order, most people don't benefit from our economic order. It's economic disorder and it's economic slavery. Let's just call it what it is.
Absolutely.
You look at the poverty, the slavery in the world. It's intentional. It's designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have listened to Nikola Tesla, we would not have the problems we have today. So you have to eliminate scarcity. So if the energy from the sun and the stars is unlimited, why aren't we using this unlimited energy? That way we could remove those shackles of scarcity. We could change the economic order. We're going to have to change the economic order. People are languishing. They're in dire poverty. They don't have the need, the goods and services that they need. You need a new economic order where you eliminate scarcity. You make scarcity less expensive. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
If we can use this energy and this energy is less expensive, I'm not saying it'll be free in application, but it will be relatively inexpensive. So that's what we need. It's too expensive to live today. It's too dangerous to live today. There is scarcity. And it's not getting any better. You have to change the paradigm. A Band-Aid is not going to fix this problem. You need a sea change event.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're talking about a change in the order of that we quite possibly haven't ever seen before. I mean, you're talking about, free energy, the elimination of fuels, like, and all this technology we're working on with like solar panels and stuff like that just could almost instantaneously go by the wayside. Like, we have it. We have all the energy we need, which then, what is food but energy? So then you're removing scarcity of food, scarcity of energy. I mean, I think just being able to have a device like that could power your home would personally change my life. And I think that's just a very small, minuscule idea of what could even be accomplished with that kind of technology.
And we're getting there.
Healthcare, mental health, especially mental health. I mean, we know that's an issue. I mean, of course, COVID really brought it to the forefront, but it was something we were struggling with way before. So just imagine what could happen, if people had access to that.
I'm going to share with the audience something that's dear to our heart at the Scalar team. This is a photograph of an HIV clinic. This is the Om Prakash HIV clinic in Delhi, India. We receive photographs of people in Delhi, India who are HIV positive. We've worked with over 5,000 people at this clinic in Delhi, India, 5,000 people. After working with these people, they don't have any symptoms of HIV viral disease.
Wow.
And they don't have a viral load. If they have a follow-up PCR test, the PCR test is negative, no viral load. Here's one of the test results. The red arrow, no viral load, undetected.
Wow.
5,000 people, and nobody has a viral load for HIV.
That's amazing.
Wow. And I'm taking it these are people who didn't have access to medications that they have now for that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, there's poverty in India.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very grateful that they've met us. We're grateful that we're working with them. So,
wow.
You
Absolutely amazing.
You chaos the hell out of that HIV virus.
That's right. You're darn right. We brought it to a state of chaos.
It's complete chaos over there. Go away, HIV. Absolutely. That's amazing.
Wow. All right. Well, Tom, we really appreciate you having you on the show tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Anything you wanted to bring up before we start winding down?
Keep praying and keep thinking. Remember, prayer and thought is a scalar waveform, which gives rise to the notion positive thoughts create your environment. Think and pray positively.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. And thank you for coming on. We're going to wind down. If you want to stay on here once we end the show, we'll talk to you just for a few minutes before everyone takes off for the night.
So don't leave us yet.
Absolutely wonderful. I would love to stay in touch. I'll follow you on your social media stuff because I want to see what comes from this. And if you have anything else that comes up, always feel free to contact us again. because I absolutely enjoyed tonight's conversation.
And our chat was hoping you'd come back again sometime. They're like, Tom, come back. So maybe we'll get you back sometime.
Maybe next year.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Look at that. Thank you both. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, guys. So thank you, everyone who came in to hang out with us tonight and to hang out with us with Tom Paladino. Once again, make sure you go follow him. Take advantage of the 15 days of free Scalar Light sessions. Check out his social media. Go give him a follow. We know how important that is because we also have the Witching Hours giveaway still going on all the way through the month of August. And all you have to do is leave us a podcast review somewhere on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. Take a screenshot of it. Go to our YouTube, follow us there, and take a screenshot of that. And then dump both of those screenshots into our Discord channel. There'll be a link. There was a link in chat, and there'll be a link in all the other feeds. And you will be entered to win the Witching Hours merch, whatever you choose from the store. That could be a hoodie, a T-shirt. Mark Hunter Brooks did buy a mug.
He bought a mug. We'll expect to see him using it next time.
Maybe he can eat some ice cream out of it. We didn't have our ice cream conversation this time.
He does like his ice cream.
Yeah. And so make sure you go there because we would love to give away some merch to some people and also help get the word of this podcast out. I think there's a lot of people who probably never heard of the Witching Hours that would absolutely love the conversation we had tonight. So let's help people find it. I appreciate you all coming here as always, and we'll do our little false finish for the podcast listeners. So thank you once again, and we will see you all next time.